The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as Sergeant Marcus Thompson adjusted his dress uniform for the third time. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear of combat, but from the weight of the day ahead. Queen Elizabeth II was visiting their regiment, and every soldier had been preparing for weeks. Marcus had served in Afghanistan for 2 tours, faced enemy fire without flinching, and earned commendations for bravery under pressure. But today felt different. Today he would stand mere feet from royalty, representing not just himself, but his entire unit. The responsibility felt heavier than any pack he had carried through desert terrain. The base buzzed with activity as security personnel conducted final sweeps. Military police positioned themselves at strategic points, while protocol officers rehearsed the ceremony for the 100th time. Marcus watched younger soldiers practice their salutes, remembering his own nervous energy during his first formal inspection years ago. Captain Williams approached the formation, his voice carrying across the parade ground. "Gentlemen, this is what we've trained for. The Queen will inspect our ranks, speak with selected personnel, and observe our drill demonstration. Remember your training, follow protocol, and make our regiment proud." Marcus nodded along with his fellow soldiers, but his mind wandered to his daughter Emma, who would be watching from the designated family area. At 8 years old, she had insisted on wearing her best dress to see the real queen. His wife Sarah had spent the previous evening explaining royal protocol to Emma, making her promise to curtsy properly if introduced. The family viewing area had been carefully positioned behind barriers, ensuring clear sight lines while maintaining security protocols. Local civilians, military families, and dignitaries would witness this historic visit. For many, it would be their only opportunity to see the monarch in person. As the morning progressed, Marcus felt his confidence building. His uniform was immaculate, his boots polished to mirror brightness. His rifle, thoroughly cleaned and inspected, felt familiar and comfortable in his hands. This was his element, his world of precision and discipline. The regimental band began warming up, their instruments gleaming in the sunlight. The melody of "God Save the Queen" drifted across the base, adding gravity to the moment. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, centering himself as he had learned to do before difficult missions. When he opened them, he spotted Emma in the crowd, her small hand waving enthusiastically. Sarah stood beside her, equally proud but more reserved. This moment represented everything Marcus fought to protect: his family, his country, the traditions that bound them together. The protocol officer's voice crackled over the radio. Royal convoy departing palace grounds. Estimated arrival in 30 minutes. The announcement sent a visible wave of alertness through the ranks. Final adjustments were made, last-minute briefings given, and positions assumed. Marcus took his place in the front rank, his years of experience earning him this honor. Behind him stood newer recruits, some barely out of training, their nervousness palpable. He remembered being in their position once, uncertain and eager to prove himself worthy of the uniform. The Queen's visit represented more than ceremony. It symbolized the unbroken chain of service connecting past and present. Marcus thought of his grandfather, who had served in World War II, and the stories of courage that had inspired his own military career. Today, he would add his own chapter to that legacy. As the minutes ticked by, Marcus maintained his bearing while internally rehearsing every detail of the upcoming ceremony. The inspection would be followed by a demonstration of military skills, then informal meetings with selected families. Everything had been choreographed to perfection. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder, and Marcus felt his pulse quicken despite his training. In moments, history would unfold before him, and he would play his part in honoring both his sovereign and his service. The weight of tradition settled on his shoulders like a familiar, comfortable burden. His rifle felt solid and reassuring in his hands as he prepared for the most important parade of his military career. Behind the barriers, Emma watched with wide eyes, completely unaware that this perfect morning was about to change their lives forever. The black Bentley rolled through the main gates with quiet dignity, flanked by motorcycle escorts, and followed by a convoy of security vehicles. Marcus maintained his rigid attention as the royal party approached, but his peripheral vision caught every detail of the historic moment unfolding. Queen Elizabeth II emerged from the vehicle with practiced grace, her powder blue coat and matching hat perfectly coordinated for the outdoor ceremony. At 96 years old, she moved with remarkable steadiness, acknowledging the gathered crowds with a gentle wave before turning her attention to the military formation. Colonel Harrison stepped forward to greet the monarch, his movements crisp and confident. The formal exchange of pleasantries carried across the silent parade ground as hundreds of spectators held their collective breath. Marcus had witnessed many military ceremonies, but none approached the gravity of this moment. The Queen began her inspection of the troops, moving slowly down the front rank with Colonel Harrison at her side. Her keen eyes missed nothing as she paused occasionally to speak with individual soldiers. Marcus could hear fragments of conversation, questions about service history, family, recent deployments. When she stopped before Private Jenkins, a young soldier who had joined only months earlier, Marcus felt a surge of pride for his unit. Jenkins answered her questions clearly and respectfully, his initial nervousness melting away under the Queen's warm attention. These personal moments, Marcus knew, would become treasured memories for the soldiers involved. As the royal party approached his position, Marcus felt time slowed down. This was the culmination of weeks of preparation, years of service, a lifetime of respect for the traditions he represented. His breathing remained steady, his posture perfect, his focus absolute. Sergeant Thompson, Colonel Harrison announced as they reached his position. 8 years of distinguished service, including 2 deployments to Afghanistan, mentioned in dispatches for gallantry under fire. The Queen's eyes met his directly, and Marcus felt the full weight of royal attention. Sergeant Thompson, your service record is most impressive. I understand you have family here today. Yes, Your Majesty, Marcus replied, his voice steady and clear. My wife Sarah and daughter Emma are watching from the viewing area. How wonderful, the Queen responded with genuine warmth. Children should witness such occasions. They represent the future we all serve to protect. As she moved on to the next soldier, Marcus felt a profound sense of completion. The exchange had been brief, but meaningful, acknowledging not just his service, but the family foundation that made it possible. In the viewing area, he knew Emma would be bursting with excitement at having been mentioned by the Queen herself. The inspection continued down the line, each soldier receiving their moment of recognition. Some conversations lasted longer than others, but each reflected the Queen's genuine interest in the lives and service of her armed forces. This personal touch, Marcus realized, was what made these visits so significant to military personnel. Following the inspection, the royal party moved to a raised platform where they would observe the planned military demonstration. This would showcase the regiment's skills in drill, weapons handling, and tactical movements. Marcus and his fellow soldiers had rehearsed these routines countless times, but performing them before the Queen added new dimensions of pressure and pride. The regimental band struck up a martial tune as the soldiers moved into formation for the demonstration. Marcus felt the familiar rhythm of military precision taking over, his body responding to commands with automatic efficiency. This was what he excelled at, what his training had perfected over years of service. As they began the complex drill sequence, Marcus was aware of the crowd's complete attention. Cameras flashed and clicked, capturing moments that would be preserved in regimental history. The Queen watched intently, her experienced eye appreciating the skill and coordination on display. The weapons handling demonstration came next, showcasing the soldiers' expertise with their rifles. Marcus felt completely in his element as he executed the precise movements he had performed thousands of times. The weight of his rifle, the smooth action of the bolt, the perfect timing of the drill, everything flowed together seamlessly. In the viewing area, Emma stood on tiptoe to get a better view of her father. Sarah held her steady while pointing out Marcus in the formation, explaining the significance of each movement. For Emma, this was better than any television show or movie. Real soldiers performing real skills and honor the real queen. The demonstration reached its crescendo with a coordinated firing sequence using blank rounds. The sharp crack of rifle fire echoed across the base as Marcus and his fellow soldiers executed the complex routine with flawless precision. The timing had to be perfect, each movement synchronized with military exactness. As the demonstration concluded, Marcus felt a deep satisfaction in the unit's performance. They had represented their regiment with honor, showcasing the professionalism and skill that defined the British military tradition. The Queen's approving nod confirmed what Marcus already knew. They had exceeded expectations. The formal ceremony was drawing to a close, but the most relaxed and personal portion was yet to come. The Queen would now meet with selected military families, offering a rare opportunity for informal conversation with the monarch. Marcus knew Emma had been chosen for this honor, a recognition of his service record and family's contribution to military life. The transition from formal ceremony to family meeting created a subtle shift in atmosphere across the base. Security barriers were adjusted to allow selected military families closer access to the royal party, while maintaining necessary protocols. Marcus watched as Emma practically vibrated with excitement, her small hand gripping Sarah's tightly. Protocol officers guided the chosen families into position, creating an informal receiving line where the Queen could meet each group personally. Marcus had been granted permission to join his family for this portion of the visit, a rare honor that reflected his distinguished service record. As they waited their turn, Marcus knelt down to Emma's level, adjusting her dress and reminding her of the proper way to curtsy. "Remember what Mummy taught you," he whispered, his voice gentle but firm. "When the Queen speaks to you, answer clearly and remember to say Your Majesty." Emma nodded solemnly, her 8-year-old face showing complete concentration. She had practiced her curtsy dozens of times over the past week, determined to perform it perfectly for the Queen. Sarah stood nearby, equally nervous but trying to project calm confidence for her daughter's sake. The Queen moved gracefully from family to family, spending several minutes with each group. Her natural warmth with children was evident as she spoke with military sons and daughters, asking about their schools, hobbies, and thoughts about their parents' service. These unguarded moments revealed the personal side of royalty that few people witnessed. When their turn arrived, Marcus stepped forward and saluted smartly while Sarah and Emma performed their rehearsed curtsies. The Queen's smile broadened as she noticed Emma's careful attention to protocol, clearly appreciating the child's effort to show proper respect. "And you must be Emma," the Queen said warmly, focusing her attention on the young girl. "Your father tells me you've been looking forward to meeting me." "Yes, Your Majesty," Emma replied, her voice clear and proud. "Daddy said you're the most important person in England, and I wanted to see a real queen." The Queen laughed delightedly at Emma's honest response. "Well, I'm certainly one queen, though I think your mummy might be the most important person in your world. Tell me, what do you think of watching your father at work today?" Emma's face lit up with enthusiasm. "He looked very handsome in his uniform, and he marched perfectly. I was so proud when you talked to him. Will you tell him he did a good job?" The exchange continued for several minutes, with the Queen showing genuine interest in Emma's perspective on military life. She asked about school, friends, and what it was like having a father who served his country. Emma answered each question thoughtfully, her initial nervousness completely forgotten. Marcus felt his heart swell with pride as he watched his daughter interact naturally with the monarch. This moment would become a treasured family memory, something Emma would carry with her for the rest of her life. Sarah squeezed his arm gently, sharing the profound significance of the occasion. As the conversation concluded, the Queen turned to address the family as a group. "Sergeant Thompson, you should be very proud of your daughter. She's clearly inherited your sense of duty and respect for others. I hope military life continues to serve your family well." The queen began to move toward the next family, but Emma suddenly spoke up with the fearless honesty of childhood. "Your Majesty, wait. I made something for you at school. May I give it to you?" Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. This wasn't part of their rehearsed protocol, and she wasn't sure how such an impromptu gift would be received. Marcus felt a moment of tension, knowing that security protocols strictly controlled what items could be presented to the queen. "How thoughtful," the queen replied graciously. "I will be delighted to see what you've made." Emma reached into her small purse and pulled out a carefully folded piece of paper. "It's a drawing of you and me having tea together. I made it in art class when Mrs. Peterson told us about your visit." The queen accepted the drawing with genuine appreciation, unfolding it to reveal a colorful crayon illustration of two figures sitting at a table with teacups. The attention to detail was remarkable for an 8-year-old, including Emma's attempt to draw the queen's distinctive handbag and hat. "This is absolutely lovely, Emma. I shall treasure this drawing, and perhaps we really will have tea together someday." The queen's response was so warm and personal that several nearby adults felt tears welling in their eyes. The moment stretched beautifully as the queen continued to examine Emma's artwork, pointing out details and asking about the colors chosen. It was during this extended interaction that the day's perfect choreography began to unravel in ways no one could have anticipated. The protocol officers, aware that the royal schedule was running slightly behind, began making subtle gestures to indicate the need to move forward. Security personnel maintained their positions but showed signs of heightened alertness as the informal meeting extended beyond planned time frames. Marcus, still holding his rifle from the earlier ceremony, remained at attention but felt increasingly relaxed as the queen's obvious enjoyment of Emma's company continued. The weapon was loaded only with blank cartridges from the demonstration, standard procedure for ceremonial events, but military discipline required he maintain proper handling at all times. A sudden gust of wind caught the queen's hat, causing her to reach up quickly to secure it. The unexpected movement triggered a chain reaction of subtle shifts among the security detail, their trained instincts responding to any deviation from planned activities. In that same moment, Emma dropped her purse, and its contents scattered across the ground. Without thinking, she moved quickly to gather her belongings, stepping closer to the queen and inadvertently crossing into the invisible security perimeter that surrounded the monarch at all times. The convergence of these small, innocent events created a moment of confusion that lasted only seconds, but would change everything. Marcus, responding to his daughter's movement, and the security team's heightened alertness, instinctively shifted his position to maintain clear sight lines, his military training operating on automatic response. Time seemed to slow as multiple people moved simultaneously. Emma reaching for her scattered belongings, the queen steadying her hat, security personnel adjusting their positions, and Marcus unconsciously following ingrained protocols for crowd control situations. In the space of a heartbeat, everything went wrong. As Emma bent to retrieve her scattered belongings, a security officer moved closer to assess the situation, his movement triggering Marcus's instinctive military response to clear space around the queen. The years of training that had kept him alive in combat zones now operated with devastating efficiency in completely wrong circumstances. Marcus lifted his rifle to port arms position, a standard movement designed to keep the weapon secure while repositioning. But as he turned to track the security officer's movement, the butt of his rifle swung in a wider arc than intended. Emma, focused entirely on gathering her precious belongings, rose from her crouched position directly into the path of the weapon. The wooden stock of the rifle struck Emma squarely in the left side of her face with a sickening impact that seemed to echo across the suddenly silent gathering. The 8-year-old girl was lifted off her feet by the force of the blow, her small body crumpling to the ground as blood immediately began flowing from her nose and mouth. For a frozen moment, nobody moved. The queen stopped mid-gesture, her expression shifting from pleasant conversation to horror. Sarah's scream pierced the air as she rushed toward her fallen daughter. Marcus stared in complete shock at his rifle, unable to process that his weapon had just struck his own child. Emma! Sarah's cry broke the paralysis that had gripped the gathering. She dropped to her knees beside her daughter, whose face was already swelling and discolored. Blood stained Emma's carefully chosen white dress, the cheerful fabric now marked by the accident that would haunt everyone present. Marcus let his rifle fall from nerveless fingers, the weapon clattering on the pavement as he rushed to Emma's side. His military bearing completely abandoned, he became simply a father confronting his worst nightmare. "I'm so sorry, baby girl. Daddy didn't see you. I'm so sorry." The queen, despite her advanced age, moved quickly toward the injured child, her decades of experience with crisis situations taking over. "Someone call for medical assistance immediately," she commanded with quiet authority, her voice carrying the weight of absolute expectation that her orders would be followed. Security personnel and medics who had been stationed nearby, as standard protocol, rushed to the scene. The base medical team had been prepared for potential emergencies during the royal visit, but none had anticipated an accident involving a military family member. Their training took over as they began assessing Emma's injuries. Emma lay unconscious, her small face severely swollen and bleeding. The impact had clearly broken her nose, and the medics worried about potential jaw fractures and concussion. Her breathing was shallow, but steady, which provided some relief to the frantic parents kneeling beside her. "Is she going to be okay?" Sarah asked desperately, clutching Emma's small hand while trying to stay out of the medic's way. Her voice cracked with emotion as she watched strangers work to help her daughter, feeling helpless and terrified. The senior medic, an experienced sergeant who had served in combat zones, worked with calm efficiency while answering Sarah's question honestly. "She's breathing well, and her pulse is strong. We need to get her to hospital immediately for proper assessment, but children are remarkably resilient." Marcus knelt frozen beside his family, his mind struggling to process what had happened. One moment, they had been sharing the proudest day of his military career, and the next his own weapon had seriously injured his beloved daughter. The guilt and shock threatened to overwhelm his ability to function. The queen, showing remarkable composure despite the traumatic scene unfolding before her, knelt carefully beside Emma's still form. Her presence seemed to create a bubble of calm around the injured child, her decades of experience with difficult situations evident in her steady demeanor. "Emma, dear," the queen spoke softly to the unconscious girl. "You were so brave to make me such a beautiful drawing. I want you to get better soon, so we can have that tea party we discussed." An ambulance arrived within minutes, its crew working seamlessly with the base medical team to prepare Emma for transport. The sight of the small girl being loaded onto a stretcher, her face obscured by oxygen mask and medical equipment, created a profound silence among all the witnesses. Sarah climbed into the ambulance without hesitation, her maternal instincts overriding any protocol considerations. Marcus moved to follow, but hesitated as he looked back at his discarded rifle, the instrument of his daughter's injury lying abandoned on the pavement. "Go with your family," Colonel Harrison commanded quietly, appearing at Marcus's side. "We'll handle everything here. Your daughter needs you now." The queen approached Marcus before he could enter the ambulance, her expression grave but compassionate. "Sergeant Thompson, accidents happen even to the most careful people. Your daughter knows you love her, and that knowledge will help her heal." As the ambulance pulled away, its sirens wailing, Marcus held Sarah's hand while watching medics monitor Emma's vital signs. The joy and pride of the morning felt like distant memories, replaced by fear and crushing guilt over the accident that had transformed their perfect day into a nightmare. The base, so carefully prepared for celebration, now dealt with the aftermath of tragedy. The Queen's visit would continue, but the accident had cast a shadow over everything. Security footage would be reviewed, incident reports filed, and questions asked about how such a thing could have happened. In the ambulance, Emma remained unconscious as they raced toward the hospital. Her small hand lay limp in Sarah's grasp, while Marcus struggled with the knowledge that his own actions, however unintentional, had caused his daughter's suffering. The weight of his rifle had never felt heavier than in its absence. The hospital waiting room became Marcus and Sarah's temporary home as surgeons worked to repair Emma's facial injuries. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional update from medical staff. The initial X-rays revealed a broken nose, fractured cheekbone, and severe bruising, but thankfully no brain injury from the impact. Dr. Patricia Collins, the pediatric surgeon, emerged from the operating room with cautiously optimistic news. The surgery went well. We've reset her nose and stabilized the cheek fracture. She's going to have significant swelling and bruising for several weeks, but children heal remarkably well from facial trauma. Relief flooded through Marcus, though guilt continued to gnaw at him relentlessly. Sarah's tears had shifted from panic to exhausted gratitude as she processed the doctor's reassurances. Their daughter would recover, but the emotional scars from this accident would take much longer to heal for all of them. When Emma finally woke the following morning, her face was barely recognizable beneath the swelling and bandages. But her spirits remained surprisingly bright, asking immediately about the Queen and whether she had kept the drawing. The innocence of her questions broke Marcus's heart even further. Daddy looked sad. Emma observed through her swollen lips, her voice muffled but clear enough to understand. It wasn't your fault. I moved when I shouldn't have. You were just doing soldier things. Her simple forgiveness hit Marcus harder than any punishment could have. This 8-year-old girl, bearing the physical marks of his accidental violence, was more concerned about his emotional state than her own pain. The magnitude of his daughter's grace overwhelmed him completely. 3 days into Emma's recovery, an unexpected visitor arrived at the hospital. The Queen, having postponed her departure from the area, came personally to check on Emma's condition. The unprecedented royal hospital visit created a stir among staff, but the monarch's focus remained entirely on the injured child. Emma, my dear, the Queen said gently, sitting beside the hospital bed. I've been thinking about you constantly. How are you feeling? Much better, Your Majesty, Emma replied, trying to smile despite her bandaged face. The nurses are very nice, and Daddy reads me stories. Did you like my drawing? The Queen reached in her handbag and carefully withdrew Emma's colorful artwork, now protected in a clear folder. I loved it so much that I've decided to have it framed for my private study. Would that be acceptable to you? Emma's eyes widened with wonder, visible even through her facial swelling. You're going to keep it forever? Really and truly, really and truly, the Queen confirmed with a warm smile. And when you're completely healed, I'd like you and your family to visit me for that tea party we discussed. I believe we have much to talk about. The royal invitation seemed impossible to believe, but the Queen's sincerity was unmistakable. Marcus felt overwhelmed by her grace and kindness toward his family during this difficult time. Her presence transformed the sterile hospital room into something magical for Emma. During her visit, the Queen spoke privately with Marcus and Sarah about the accident. Her words were carefully chosen, acknowledging the tragedy while emphasizing that accidents, however devastating, did not diminish his years of dedicated service or his worth as a father. Sergeant Thompson, she said quietly, I've witnessed many brave acts during my reign, but watching you care for your daughter shows the truest courage of all. Don't let this accident define you or overshadow the good man you clearly are. The investigation into the incident concluded that it was indeed a tragic accident, with no fault assigned to Marcus or any of the security personnel present. The complex interaction of movement, wind, and circumstance had created an unavoidable situation that could not have been predicted or prevented. As weeks passed and Emma's physical healing progressed, the family worked through the emotional aftermath together. Marcus struggled with guilt and self-doubt, requiring counseling to process the trauma of accidentally injuring his own child. Sarah provided strength for both her husband and daughter while dealing with her own fears about military life's unexpected dangers. Emma's recovery proved remarkable, both physically and emotionally. Children's natural resilience helped her bounce back from the injury without developing lasting fears or resentment. She spoke proudly of meeting the Queen and showed off her healing face to friends as proof of her royal encounter. 6 months after the accident, an ornate invitation arrived at their home. The Queen had kept her promise, inviting the Thompson family for tea at Windsor Castle. Emma had healed completely except for a small scar near her left eye, which she wore like a badge of honor from her royal adventure. The tea party exceeded every expectation Emma had imagined. The Queen treated her like a treasured guest, showing her private rooms and sharing stories about life in the palace. Emma's drawing hung framed in the Queen's private study, visible proof that their friendship was genuine and lasting. Marcus received a commendation for his years of distinguished service, personally presented by the Queen during their visit. The formal recognition helped restore his confidence and reminded him that one accident could not erase a career of honorable service to his country. The family's relationship with the Queen continued through occasional letters and updates about Emma's progress in school. These personal touches from the monarch created a unique bond that would last for years to come. Emma treasured each royal correspondence as precious gifts. As Emma grew older, she often reflected on the day that changed her life. Rather than remembering it as a trauma, she saw it as the beginning of an extraordinary friendship with the Queen of England. Her father's accidental strike had somehow opened a door to experiences most people could only dream about. Marcus eventually came to understand that forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, was perhaps the most important lesson from that terrible day. His daughter's immediate grace had shown him the power of love over blame, and the Queen's continued kindness had demonstrated that true nobility lay in how people responded to crisis and tragedy. The scar near Emma's eye faded over time, but the memories of royal friendship and family resilience would remain vivid forever. What began as the worst moment of Marcus's life had ultimately revealed the very best in human nature and the unbreakable bonds of family love.